Hey YouTube, Bob here. Welcome to the next installment of the DS series of my Nintendo Unboxed playlist. And in this third installment, we're going to be taking a look at the Nintendo 3DS and the Nintendo 3DS XL, which followed it up in 2012. The original Nintendo 3DS was released in 2011. So that's the one we're going to take a look at first here. So we'll move the 3DS XL off to the side, come back to it later, and then take a look at this big hulking box. Now, I remember back in my first unboxing video of the original DS, I was kind of remembering just the experience that I used to have unboxing these handhelds and thinking about how much detail went into them. And then I was surprised to see that the DS manual was actually in black and white and not in full color like I was remembering, and there wasn't nearly as much documentation as I was remembering. And then I went to go package this one back up and I realized, well, this is what my brain was remembering, unboxing this. This was truly an event when it came out because the idea of 3D stereoscopic graphics without the need for glasses, that was really, really intriguing. And we all just really want to know how in the world was that going to work. So I think Nintendo knew the mystique of this product, and they really kind of made it special, even right down to the packaging, which we're going to get into here. So right away you can see this box is absolutely huge, and there's two reasons for that. I'll get into that more when we crack it open here. But again, they just want to showcase the product all by itself, very minimalistic here. And I remember when this launched, it came out in two variants, this aqua color, and then there was a sort of gray color. And this was the first, no, it wasn't the first, it was the second. I was going to say, this is the second time that I actually attended a midnight release. The first of which was back in 2006 for the Wii, which was completely necessary because now we know the huge shortages of the Wii console that existed for years after its release. This, not so much. I remember being, kind of excited for the midnight release, and I went there and stood in line with a bunch of fans and chatted them up, and it was fun. But when I went home, I kept it all in the bag, just put it on the counter in the kitchen and went up and went to bed and then opened it up and used it the next morning, because in 2011 I was 31, already very much an adult, and I was tired, so I wasn't going to stay up and tinker with it much past midnight there. But I did play with it very much the next day, and it was a lot of fun. So and it continued to be fun, and I think this is my favorite iteration of the 3DS console. I'll explain why as we get into it. But we turn it around here. We got some warnings on this side. Got that elegant DS logo on the bottom. Just completely blank on this side. That's actually very uncommon. There's at least usually a logo on one side. And then you've got the serial number here, and then the color, which, like I said, was aqua. On the back, a new dimension in entertainment, and of course they're referring to the 3D capabilities here. It says the Nintendo 3DS system combines next-generation portable gaming with eye-popping 3D visuals without the need for special glasses. Take 3D photos using the built-in camera and give them your own personal twist with the interactive effects. Connect to friends, other players, and wireless hotspots with the wireless Street Pass and Spot Pass communication modes to unlock exclusive content for games and download other entertainment. From games to photos and beyond, Nintendo 3DS is the ultimate 3D entertainment system. Some features may be available at a later date. And then right here on the box here, they're touting a lot of the software that came built in. And much like the DSi, this was kind of getting us used to the fact that the 3DS was now having its own operating system, so to speak. You could download things to it. You weren't dependent on game cards all the time. And a lot of fun was just stored right on the machine itself. You had the camera, Nintendo 3DS Sound, where you could play MP3s. The Mii Maker, the Miis from Wii came over to the 3DS, which was actually pretty cool. AR games with the 3D feature, augmented reality games, were actually really pretty cool. face raters, an activity log, which, okay, that's just utility, and then download play, which you could play multiplayer if you had somebody else in the room with you. But this was the first time also I started to feel a little bit of a disconnect maybe with Nintendo and my age. Because a lot of these things were geared, in my opinion, more towards kids. And me being an older gamer at the time, you know, like I said, I was 31, I was more interested in just playing the games that were on the cards, like your Super Mario Brothers and your Legend of Zeldas. That's what I was most looking forward to with this. So I started to not get into the Street Pass and the Spot Pass, and if you were to ask me to give you a summary of what they are right now, I honestly couldn't really do a good job of it because I really didn't get into these features. Just I think mainly because of my age when I first got my hands on this machine. But those of you who are younger, you probably have very fond memories of Street Pass and all those types of things. But they were just oddities for me, little novelties here and there that I tinkered with for a while. But the main attraction for the 3DS was the main Nintendo franchise games that I did enjoy quite a bit on this system. So enough waxing nostalgic for me. Let's get this open. This is back when Nintendo was still sealing things with those circle transparent stickers, and I guess they still are, because I recently unboxed the 35th anniversary edition Super Mario Brothers Game & Watch, and it had a similar seal on it. So looks like Nintendo is still doing that. So you pull back the tab here, open up this flap here, and then ba-doom, 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 you can almost hear the boot sound as you see all those little DS rectangles there. Kind of a cool feature, almost like it's exploding right there in front of you. You open it up and bam! Look at that. They took advantage of the huge footprint of this box and made the documentation kind of match the size of it. I told you I'd explain why this box was so big. I don't think the documentation is the reason why necessarily. I think they just took advantage of the already big box that was big for another reason. We'll get to that once we get into it. But let's take a look at this documentation first. And this was just that robust, colorful experience that I was remembering when I did my first unboxing video for the DS. Just all the things that it came with, the fit and finish of it, the nice little touches that Nintendo put on it, and oh my gosh, look at all this. So let's get these things out of the bag and see what we have here. So right away you have your AR games, which the AR cards, you know, augmented reality is what AR stands for. You put the card down and scan it with the camera, and then boom, right in the background of your own home pops a Mario figure or a Kirby figure. So those of you who grew up with this, I'm sure you remember what the AR cards were. One nice touch with this launch Nintendo 3DS is these AR cards, they're in a nice little envelope here. And I've got some issues, so to speak, with opening things sometimes. I like to keep things kind of how they were and in nice condition. So as you can see, I never even opened these. And the way I was able to play AR card games is Nintendo offered you the ability to just download them and print them out off of your site. So I think I have my printed out AR cards down in my Nintendo setup, but I never even opened this. But when I was comparing the pack-in materials between the 3DS and the 3DS XL, which we'll take a look at later in this video, the AR cards for the 3DS XL don't even come in this nice little envelope here. So I thought that was just kind of a nice touch here for the launch of the 3DS. Then you get your Club Nintendo information, which of course exists in a different format now, but it was telling you to get the serial number off your console and to enter it in, and I've already done that, and Club Nintendo's no more, so whatever, there's the serial number for my console. You put that in and you get your Club Nintendo points. Sorry about that, Toby got all excited for some Club Nintendo points. And then of course the Nintendo Power subscription, giving you an offer, save an additional $5 when you go online here, I guess, to order your Nintendo Power using that address. And at this point it was being published by Future, no longer Nintendo. This was getting towards the end of the physical Nintendo Power magazine, but you had your obligatory subscription card there. And then we get into the mountains of documentation here. 3 versions of the Street Pass Mi Plaza instructions, of course, in multiple languages. We've got French and Spanish, in addition to the English. But it explains all about what Street Pass Mi Plaza is. Open it up. Nice full color. Kind of basic though, you know, it's just a little quick start pamphlet. Got some unused space here, but that's all right. Still a very big piece of paper to fit in that very big box. I think they wanted to make everything match up size-wise, even if they couldn't use the real estate down here fully, but that's all right. And then on the back, even talks about system updates and Club Nintendo and all of this in full color and in 3 different languages, whichever you needed. And keeping in that multilingual theme here, we've got the quick start guide. All 3 parts of it, 1, 2, and 3, which in my opinion kind of makes me think you would need all 3 of them, but it just kind of looks like the 1 is the English, the 2 is the French, and the 3 is the Spanish. So you really don't need all 3 of them necessarily. The 1 and the 3, the English and the Spanish, they've got also this additional kind of orange stripe here. I'm not sure why that is, but they do. So we'll take a look at the English one here. Got a quick start guide for charging your system and turning it on, configuring your basic settings, play a game on a game card, and connecting to the internet. So this is just a quick illustrated way to do all of those things. Right away it says these items are included and referred to in this guide. Got your system, your charging cradle, your AC adapter, and your stylus. It also lets you know that the SD memory card is included and is already in the slot, which is another one of those things where Nintendo just wanted to make this product appealing to everybody right away. So they went ahead and included the SD memory card there, which we wouldn't see too much in the future, if I'm remembering correctly. So then it's showing you how to charge it using the charging cradle, or you could do it just directly from the AC adapter plug there, and how to turn it on. So then we open it up, and it looks like this is kind of a poster format here. It's going to go vertical on us now. So configuring your basic settings in orange there. Looks like you're talking about the clock and the date and your birthday. How to insert a game card and play that. Then it lets you know part 4 continues on to the back, which is connecting to the internet. I remember connecting to the internet was a little bit of a challenge back in the DS and DSi days. I think that with the 3DS is where it began to be a little bit easier using Wi-Fi. But still, this is the biggest portion of the quick start guide here. It takes up the whole back side here, except for the parental controls right down here at the bottom. Then it's reminding you to consult the operations manual to get more in-depth instructions about all of the other included software on the OS. So this is the quick start guide in 3 different languages. Then we come to the manual. The operations manual to be precise. So let's take a look at this. Quite a thick tome here. It's even printed on the side there with the title of it, Nintendo 3DS Operations Manual. Hi, Toby. Pretty plain on the back here, just with a Nintendo logo and then some reference phone numbers for their helpline. But we open it up here, we can see, ooh, it's all color-coded, so we know it's going to be in full color, and multilingual, of course. The French starts on page 109, so it's about a 108-page manual. Then the Spanish starts on page 219. So we open it up, got full color here, look at that. You just don't see this anymore, just the depth of the coverage here and then the color. So this is for sure what I was remembering when I was thinking, the good old days when Nintendo included lots of documentation in color. It was the 3DS I was remembering. So it says your system includes the Nintendo 3DS charging cradle, which that's the reason why this box is so big, and just one more example of how Nintendo made this release of the 3DS special. They gave you the charging cradle with it. They gave you an SD card with it. Really kind of a cool setup here to kick off this brand new handheld. So you get the system, you get the 3DS charging cradle, you get an AC adapter, you get your AR cards, which I never opened, and you get your memory card and then all of the documentation. Now one thing that's not listed here is a lanyard strap, and I'm going to need your help with this because both my Nintendo 3DS and 3DS XL, when I repackaged them, they had lanyard straps on them that apparently I had put on them. The 3DS had this one. This one just has the Nintendo logo on it. It's got it there on the clip, and then it's got it here on the little end. Nintendo, Nintendo. This is the one on the 3DS. I thought it came with the system, but then I looked at the manual before I packaged it back up and it wasn't listed there, so I thought, I must have added that. And then I looked at the lanyard strap that I had on the 3DS XL, and it says Wii on it. So clearly this is something I added to my 3DS XL later on and did not come with it, but I don't remember if this came with the lanyard or not. Do you guys remember from your original Nintendo 3DS? Per the operations manual, no, it did not, because it's not listed there. But I just thought that was interesting, and something you can look forward to as you get older is not remembering what you did. So there you go. So let's take a look back at the operations manual here. We got just some basic a diagram here of just exterior parts of the system. Talking about the 3D images and taking photos with the dual cameras that were necessary to create those 3D images. The differences between the 3DS and the Nintendo DS and DSi game cards. These were actually keyed with a little part that stuck out to the right there, so you couldn't insert them into a DS or a DSi. And then going into all of the different software that was included on the OS. It really made the 3DS special. So going through here, we just continue to see lots of in-depth, full color coverage of everything and anything that you would ever want to or need to know about using your brand new 3DS system. A very exciting time to be a Nintendo fan. Huge upgrade in the graphics and the sound, and then of course on top of all of that you got the new 3D graphics. And then you have all this new software that's just loaded onto the system right away. You don't even need to put a game card in to have a good time with the system. So that's the manual. Lots of information there. I'm not going to take you through it page by page. I'm sure there's PDFs of it online as well. But you're probably here mainly for the hardware. So I've made you wait long enough for that. Let's take a look and see what we got. So there's a little tab here you can pull up to remove the documentation tray. Comes out like that. And you've got three main pieces of hardware in here. You've got the charging cradle, you've got the 3DS system, and then you have the charging brick, which is pretty much the same one as the Nintendo DSi. So let's take a look at the charging cradle first. We'll pull that out here. Very cool that Nintendo included this. So it kind of gives you an example of the footprint of how the cameras are supposed to be at the bottom. When you put it down here, this little button here pushes down, and then the contacts come forward to make a connection with the panels on the 3DS system. And then you plug your charging cable end in here. So you got a nice place just to kind of throw your 3DS, plop it right on here. You don't have to fumble or fidget around trying to get a little plug in the back here. So it's real nice. One thing that I never figured out what this was, maybe you guys can help me, is there's also this little that. I never really knew what this was for here. So yeah, if you have any idea, let me know. So that's the charging cradle. Not going to do too much with the power brick. I've already shown it off in my my DSi videos, so we know what that's all about. But let's take a look at the 3DS itself, the aqua blue launch model. And of all the iterations of the DS in general, I'm fairly confident in saying this is my favorite. Just the aesthetic of it, it looks different than any other Nintendo handheld because of the design and also the sheen. The sheen of the paint. I mean, it's just so shiny. Take a look at that. We just didn't get that with any other Nintendo handheld that I can think of. It almost reminds me of a carnival ride with those kind of speckles in there. Just a really cool sheen that they put on there. Of course, the negative to it is it's a fingerprint magnet, but that's just kind of how that goes. Luckily for me, the 3DS XL came out a year later, and that is actually the system I put most of my wear and tear on playing 3DS games, not this original one here. So if we take a look at it, we got that nice shiny sheen there on the top, the dual cameras, and we got the charging light kind of hidden right there in the upper right hand side. On the front panel here, we've got our port for the headphones. This time there is no little microphone connector there, so it looks like we're just going through audio here. There is a mic, however, on the system. Got power indicator, and if it's charging, got a light for that. These little holes here, I believe, are for your lanyard. I already took it off here, did I? Let's see here. Yeah, I think that's where the lanyard was. It was in the front. So looks like you could put your lanyard on the right-hand side, or you could put it on the left-hand side. There's pass-throughs on either end there. On the right-hand side here, there's a toggle for turning on your wireless connection, which if it's on, of course, it's using more battery. So if you're in a place where you're not going to be using the internet, you're just playing games off a card, it would be wise to turn off your wireless. And then there's a little LED there to indicate that it's on. Turning it around to the top here, we've got our charging port, and then it's flanked on both sides by those little panels for your charging dock, because like I said, when that button is pushed, those little pins come forward and make a connection with those plates there. So we'll take a look and see how that's supposed to go. Just as easy as tossing it right on there. You don't even need to fidget with it too much. And if you want to use it as a music player, and while it's charging, there's even a little cutout there to allow for a headphone plug. So very, very nice fit and finish to this. A nice touch that Nintendo threw it in the package as well. It wasn't something you'd have to buy separately, such as was the case with the 3DS XL. But we'll see that in just a little bit here. I've also got the L and R buttons for games, and there's also a little camera icon letting you know that that's also for the shutter for your camera. You could use either the L or R button. In the middle, we've got the game slot card, and then immediately to the right of that, we have the stylus. And this stylus is the most unique stylus included in any 3DS, in my opinion. You pull it out here, and yikes, that's kind of on the small side, wouldn't you say? So it's actually the only telescoping stylus that was ever included with a DS console, to my knowledge, at least made by Nintendo. And the other thing that makes it unique is it's made out of metal. All the other ones were made out of plastic. So actually it's kind of like an antenna on an old radio. But the stylus was very unique. I quite enjoy the design there. And I think they made it telescoping just because the system itself was small and you were loading it from the top down instead of to the side. So if it were to the side, obviously they would have more real estate to do that with. So flipping it over to this side, we've got the volume slider. So back to a slider for volume here. And then this is the little SD card cover. Pull that down, and the included SD card is still in there. Got a 4 gig Lexar SD card, all provided by Nintendo, which is really cool. So we'll tuck that back in there. Come on. There we go. And we'll take a look at the back. Nothing too special going on there. The serial number for the system, and then just some information there. And a little diagram showing you how to put the game card in. So with that, we'll open it up, and per the original packaging, it came with a little foam sheet to protect the screens. And the inside of the DS kind of shares the same sheen and finish of paint as the outside does. You can see that there's that middle piece that has that color here. The bottom, however, is kind of more of a flat color that doesn't really match the middle. But you close it and you get a very unique stacked, or I've heard this referred to as like the layer cake design, which it's kind of blocky, but I really do like it. This is my favorite model of the 3DS, especially some of the other colors that this came in. I think there was a red and a purple. Very cool colors. But you got your circle pad here, very smooth. D-pad, a little on the small side, and the buttons, which again I've already talked about how I don't always enjoy the size of the buttons, and they just feel so cramped. Like I could take my thumb and just push all 4 of them at once. You can't really do that on the Super Nintendo or anything like that. So I wish it were a little bit bigger, but given the real estate they had to work with, I understand why it couldn't be that. The select and home and start buttons are here now, and they're actually under this little panel here. I think they're capacitative. Is that the right word? Probably not. I'm not hugely steeped in technology information as far as those technical terms go, but the start buttons here, home, and select. And some people said those were a little bit hard to push, so they made a little bit of, I don't know if it's an improvement, but they definitely made a modification to it in the 3DS XL, which we will take a look at. Then the power button is here, back to a button again, not a slider. And that's pretty much it, aside from the slider for the 3D effect right here. Which something else that's interesting, I always thought, is I read something or saw a video that Nintendo explained why they chose to make the top screen portion black instead of the color of the system. And they said is they didn't want the color to distract your eye from the 3D effect, which on the face of it makes sense. I understand that. But this was the only iteration of the 3DS that also had a little LED, green LED 3D. And we're not going to be able to see it because the battery is not in the system. I take the batteries out of the systems when they're not in use. So it won't turn on. But when you turn the 3D on, there's this green LED 3D that turns on. So I always thought that was a little bit of a contradiction there, saying Nintendo didn't want any color distractions around this 3D screen, but then they have this blaring green LED light letting you know that the 3D's on. But that's just a little side note. But that's the 3DS right there. My favorite iteration of the 3DS console, and my favorite unboxing experience, just because of how special Nintendo made it with those little touches. You got your charging cradle with it. The AR cards, they came in their own special little envelope here, and you got the SD card with it. Just a lot of nice little touches for this exciting new time of Nintendo gaming. So that's the 3DS. We're going to be taking a look now at the 3DS XL. So there it is, the Nintendo 3DS XL. Got some more minimalist packaging here, just showing off the console, but also touting the 90% larger screens in comparison to the original 3DS. So this iteration coming out a year later in 2012, that was kind of the new pattern that we were seeing, is you get the original and then you get a bigger one too. And then after that, I think, with the new Nintendo 3DS and no, that's not true. No, I think the XL was always released at a different time or later. I thought at some point maybe they were released simultaneously, but I think the XL always came after the original. But that was the case with this a year later. And on this side we got the red-black combo. The other option at launch was a blue-black combo. So just basic red and blue with these. Not too much of interest. Don't have the that little rectangle logo anymore on any side of it. But on the back again, they're comparing the original to the XL now with the 90% larger screen. And again, it says a new dimension in entertainment. The 3DS XL system combines next-generation portable gaming with eye-popping 3D visuals without the need for special glasses. Take 3D photos, connect to friends, other players, or wireless hotspots with the wireless Street Pass and Spot Pass communication modes. From games to photos and beyond, Nintendo 3DS XL is the ultimate 3D entertainment system. The Nintendo 3DS XL system plays all Nintendo DS games. Nintendo DS games will not appear in 3D. So then again at the bottom here we got a list of all of those pieces of software that are included in the OS. So this box is quite a bit smaller than the original, as you saw at the beginning of the video, and the reason for that is because there is no charger with it. There was, however, a charger released for the 3DS XL, and I do have it here. This charger, I actually believe you had to order directly from Nintendo. You could order it from the parts portion of their website. So it didn't have any retail packaging. You couldn't buy it in any stores, but they did offer this. So the same kind of deal here. You got that little button there, and then the pins come forward to make contact with those panels. This one, however, loses that little mystery flippy floppy door that the original had, but it still gives you a little diagram of how you put it in. Kind of drop it down in the front here and then let it fall down in the back is what they're saying. And then again, a little cutout for the headphone jack if you want to listen to music while it's charging. So that's pretty cool. So I already broke the seal long ago. Let's pull open the flap right there and then pull out the tray. So I don't have a flip-top box anymore. I think I like the flip-top boxes too. I think that was part of the experience I enjoyed so much with the original 3DS. And you can see since the footprint of the box has been reduced, so has the size of the documentation. We still get pretty much the same things as we did in the original, but now in a smaller size, even a smaller bag, not nearly as much overlap to fold over there. The AR cards that came with the 3DS XL were just the AR cards. Again, I didn't open mine, but we've lost the envelope now. No special little envelope. So AR cards were not new anymore, and probably by this time this was one of the least popular features of the 3DS, given that there were so many more 3D games available, and Nintendo didn't need to rely on this so much to make it seem like a special product. So you still got the cards, just the presentation isn't quite as cool. Got the Club Nintendo registration here with the code, which I entered long ago in a site that no longer exists, so no big deal if you see it. And then we've got just some description of Club Nintendo there. Got our quick start guides, which, whoa, they are quite a bit smaller than the other ones, but still in 3 different languages, English, French, and Spanish. Again, numbered 1, 2, and 3. Not sure why that is, because it makes it seem like you need all of them, but you only need the ones for the languages you speak. Same deal here. Little bit less color I'm noticing, though. There still is color, but it's not full color. It's more like diagrams instead of photos. The screenshots, however, they also seem to be a little bit more monochromatic too, although no, there's a little bit more color in that one. But definitely losing a little bit of the detail and the nice touches of the original. But it is still double-sided with the instructions for connecting to the wireless internet taking up the majority of the back side. And then just reminders about parental controls and then referring to the manual for the other parts of the software. So you got your quick start guides there in 3 languages. And then that brings us to the operations manual here. So I think French started on page 108 on the other one, and French starts on page 105 on this one. So 104-page manual. Funny how they're able to shrink it down so much and not really affect the thickness of the manual. So you've got the original one here, just for comparison. Wow, take a look at that. But the thickness is pretty much the same. Not different at all. So if we take a look at this, the manual, however, retains the full color pictures here, which is really nice. So you go through, got the same thing. Let me see if there's that neat picture about the photos. Do they still have that? Yeah, they do. See, full color illustrations there. Just swapping out the system there and changing 3DS to 3DS XL where necessary, but still all in full color. Great depth of information, all in 3 different languages. Pretty cool, but you know what? I never looked at it. That's probably why they stopped providing it. So here we got the charger. Same one as the DSi and the 3DS before it. And then this is always a little bit of a challenge. There we go. We got our 3DS XL and its little foam blanket there. Open it up and stark contrast to the original. The original was very shiny and metallic looking. This one is more curvy and matte. And definitely gentler curves here on the side. This one has some more sharp angular edges there. So they went in stark contrast to the design between the 3DS and the 3DS XL. This one almost actually kind of reminds me of a McDonald's cheeseburger, just the way that it curves down there, and I don't know, it's just something that it always reminded me of. But we still got the two cameras on the front there. The microphone, or not the microphone, the headphone jack has been moved from the center to the left-hand side here. Still got two lanyard posts there that you could attach a lanyard to, which I attached my Wii lanyard to. I don't even remember when I did that, but apparently I did. Something that I noticed too with this one is this is one of the first ones where you could actually kind of see in there. It doesn't like completely close over like the original did, or even some of the ones after this did. So kind of a more open design there. And on the left hand side here we've got the volume. And this is where I kind of, this design seems, even though it's bigger, it's got the bigger screens, there were definitely some cost-cutting measures in here that just made me feel like it was cheaper. And this is the first example of it. If we compare the volume, you can see that in the original there's some silk screen printing on there. I think that's the right term for it, where it actually says volume there. You know, you can see the text. It's printed right on the plastic. With the 3DS XL, it's just kind of embossed into the plastic there. So that, to me, it just feels a little bit cheaper. Not bad necessarily, just cheaper. And they probably cut some of those corners in order to be able to bring the price down, because they have this larger screen in there, which no doubt was one of the more expensive parts of manufacturing this one. But that's what you're going to see throughout, where the Nintendo 3DS, it had all those little symbols printed on the plastic. Now they're just kind of embossed into the plastic. So then on this side we've got again the wireless toggle, and this one also has an SD card included. This one is a 2 GB card. Interesting. Now, since so many years have passed, I can't tell you with a huge degree of certainty if these are the original SD cards that came with them. I imagine they are. So we got a 4 GB one with the 3DS and a 2 GB one with the 3DS XL. And then something else that shares this side is the stylus, which has gone back to plastic, and it's no longer telescoping because it goes into the side, so there's a lot more place for it to rest within the casing there. No need for it to extend like it did. And you got your wireless toggle switch. And then you've got your 3D slider here, which is accessible while the system is closed. There's really no reason for that. I think that's just a consequence of the design there. I don't think it has any function. Coming around this side here, we got your L and your R buttons, again with a camera icon embossed in the plastic. You could use this to take your photos. And something I forgot to mention with the original 3DS, or at least pointed out, is the infrared blaster right here, which is for wireless gameplay, so that 3DS consoles could communicate with each other via Spot Pass, I believe. So this has the same thing there. And then the 3DS game card slot, which would also accept DS and DSi game cards. So we've got our charging port with the panels for the cradle. And since I demoed how the other cradle worked, I'll do that with this one too. This one, they say they want you to put the front in first and just kind of let it fall down. And then those pins come forward and make a connection. So then we open it up, and then this is where just that more inexpensive feeling just kind of shines through here. If we open up the other one too, you can just see, particularly with the start, home, and select buttons, it's all printed there, you can see it, but here it's just more embossed into the plastic. Not necessarily a bad thing, but it just feels cheaper to me. But this is definitely the 3DS console that I put most of my mileage on here, just because of the larger screens. It was a little bit more comfortable too, I think, because it was bigger. You know, for an adult hand, it's better for that reason. Screen is absolutely huge if you compare it to the original 3DS screen. You obviously have to look at the middle portion, not the whole outline there with the bezels, but huge screen, very large upgrade. They kept the black outline here. The whole interior is black. The interior does not match the exterior color. So that kind of goes along with their explanation that they don't want any color distraction from the 3D graphics. And maybe as a cost-saving measure, or maybe to go along with their rationale for keeping the outline black, they also did away with the with that little green LED light that said 3D on it. So instead, it just said 3D and then off with a little click when you turn it off. And you got your face buttons and your circle pad and your power button. So all in all, an improved experience from the standpoint of the screens. A little bit of a ding in the fit and finish, or the physical presentation aspect of the console, but both of these models were very viable and very enjoyable. A definitely successful introduction to the 3DS line that would be followed up by 2 more versions, which we're going to be taking a look at in the next editions of this playlist. We're going to be taking a look next at the 2DS and new 2DS XL, and then of course the new 3DS and the new 3DS XL. So be looking forward to those videos. In the meantime, I want to thank you for watching. Take care, and you'll see me in the next one. Bye-bye.